Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to cloud test lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
Database name. Let's say, here when I use MySQL, my thing looks like this. If you see, exactly the host name I replaced with the localhost column 3306 and my database name is this. This is the URL. For example, let's say you have installed your database at 3300. Yours is 3300, and if you have created your database by name training, so here you should keep it as training. That's how I formulate the URL.
Where did you get that number from 3306?
When we install, it asks us at which port you want to install the server. When you're doing an installation, it asks it. By default, when we're installing MySQL, it is 3306. If you want, we can change it. When we are doing the installation, it asks us at what port you want me to put it. And that port is used for the specific purpose, and we cannot use the specific port for something else. That is the port number.
Okay. What you written there as number, right? That is the port number.
Yes, it's a port number. I mean, your system has different ports. I mean, this is not any Java terminology. So one specific port number will be allocated for this. One specific port will be allocated for this, and this is the port number for it.
Okay. Through that socket, like that port, the connection goes in or out. Okay.
Yep. So folks, the formulation of different URLs are different for different databases. You just replace the host names and the database names. And when you're using like DB2, this is JDBC colon DB2. For the such JDBC colon MySQL. It's like that. And these are the driver classes for specific databases. So now, if I want to talk to the database, what should I do? What is the first thing that I should be doing if I want to connect to the database? Folks, any one of you. From Java, I want to execute some SQL queries. What is the first thing that I have to do?
Credentials.
I have to create the connection object, right? First, I have to create the connection object, right? So, using the database URL, username, and password, we get the connection object by calling the getConnection method of the driver manager class. This URL, folks, we just put it depending on the underlying database. If it is Oracle, we use it. If it is a SQL database, we use the URL for the SQL databases. You have the URL that is specified here for the respective databases. We have the URL, we have the username, we have the password. So we say driver manager dot get connection of, we pass the username and URL username and password, and we get the connection object. So there are three different ways of creating a connection object. You can create the connection object, and then as a properties we can set, there is a class java.title.properties, and in that you can put any number of properties you want to. So user, password, you can put it, and you can call. These are overloaded methods basically. The get connection method is overloaded to take URL, username, and password. Or this username and password, you can put it in a properties object, and you can pass the properties object also. So these are different ways of getting a connection object. By calling we can call any of the overloaded method get connection to get the connection object. And once we have the connection object, we have different interfaces like, to interact with the database. One is a statement, prepared statement, and the callable statement. Statement is used for general purpose access to your database. Like, statement is basically used for static SQL. Static SQL means that I don't have any parameters that I want to set it dynamically. I say select star, I want to say select star from actor. Right? I use a statement because there is nothing dynamic that I want to put it as a parameter in a statement, right? I say update actor, set name is equal to Venkat, where actor ID is equal to 1, right? It's a static SQL. I use a statement. But when you want to use same SQL statement multiple times, let's say I say, I replace it with question marks. I say update actor, set name is equal to question mark, where actor ID is equal to question mark. So the actor name and the ID, I'm not putting it. I'm going to set it later. And the same statement, I can put multiple values and I can execute it multiple times with different input parameters at the runtime. So the prepared statement, we have one prepared statement that we create, and we can execute it multiple times with different parameters. But a statement is a static SQL execution. If you want to execute static SQL statements at runtime, we use a statement. But if you want to have a prepared statement wherein we dynamically put the parameters, and the same prepared statement can be executed multiple times. And the callable statement is used to execute the stored procedures. So these are three different interfaces that we have to execute the SQL against the database. Statement, prepared statement, and the callable statement. So first, after getting the connection object, we create a statement object to execute the SQL. And statement is used for the execution of static SQL statements. So after getting the connection object, connection.create statement returns as a statement object, and in the statement we have execute. Folks, could someone explain me this snippet of code? What are we at least trying to do there? We are writing some code. I mean, from the exception handling perspective. Could someone just try to explain it from the exception handling perspective? This specific snippet of code.
We have a variable called SDLC that is going to store the connection statement.
Yes. We are creating a statement object.
Yeah,
right?
Statement object, yes, and storing in SDLC. And then if there is any error here occurred, then it will catch that error and shows the error, and finally it closes that connection.
Yes, we don't want to lock it, so we have to keep this closure in the finally block, right? Because finally block gets executed in all scenarios except it encounters system.exist. So we want to close the statement all the time. Good. So we have different methods in a statement like execute update, and execute query. So when we say execute, it returns a Boolean value. If you do a select, if a result set object is retrieved, it returns true. If you're not able to retrieve a result set object, it returns false. And if you want to do an execute an update, right? Or if you want to do an insert and see the number of rows that got affected. If I insert 2 rows, right? It says it gives me 2. If I update 2 rows, or if I delete the count, the number of rows that are affected by the SQL execution are returned from the execute update method. And we have the execute query method, which returns a result set. We have discussed what is the purpose of a result set when there is certain data that is returned from the database. So what is the DML that returns the data? The select, right? So when we do a select and when it is returning some data, we use the execute query method. It returns a result set, and that result set contains the data that is returned from the database. So we have 3 different methods that we need to use that we use to execute the queries. So folks, let's see an example on how exactly we do it. So folks, usually the getting connection, right? Whatever sequels that you want to execute, you need to get a connection for them, right? If it is a statement, prepared statement, or callable statement, it doesn't matter. We have to get the connection object. So we don't want to keep that particular code in all the classes, right? So we put this in a utility class, a separate class, and all the other classes uses it. So first, in this connection utility class, we have a method. See, every SQL execution needs a connection object, whether it is through statement, prepared statement, or callable statement, doesn't matter. We need a connection object. So we don't put the code of getting the connection, like loading the driver, calling the driver manager class, we don't keep this code in all the classes. Instead, we keep it in a specific class, utility class. Let's say we named here as the connection utility class, and all the classes, wherever you need a connection object, we call the specific code. So here we have formulated the URL, right? So folks, if you see JDBC, MySQL, the host is like the localhost colon, the port number is 3306, and the database name is SAKILA. So this is the URL. And I'm logging in as a root user, and my password is Karkil. So I have the URL, username, and password. So first, I have to load the driver. This is the SQL driver, right? So SQL, this is the driver class. So we are loading the driver using class.phoname, and we are calling the getConnection method by passing the URL, username, and password, and we are getting the connection object. So first of all, before you do any statement, prepare statement, anything, right? First do this and print the connection object. It shouldn't be null, right? You have to have the connection object. So first, let's say in this utility class, I just call the get connection method, right? So it is returning the connection. If I just run it, it should print me the, see, in utility class, it is printing me the connection object. So I'm able to connect to the database. Let's say, for example, my username is wrong or my password is wrong. Some scenarios, right? I won't be able to connect to the database. It is throwing me a SQL exception, and it is saying it's not authorized, right? So if you're not able to get the connection,
where is this username password again? Like, is it declared somewhere else other than this class?
No. Here or what we have the username and password. When we install the database, we provide a username and password, right? By default, there is a root user that is created, and we can specify a password for it. These are.
You have created a username and password database in MySQL.
Yes, this is a database username and password. Wherein even I want to, log in through the SQL workbench, when I connect it, it asks us for the username and password, right? The same username and password here. Are you clear, Rahul?
Yeah, I'm clear. Yeah.
Okay, good. So we passed this and we got the connection object. So this is the first part that all of you have to try, because before you practice the statement, prepare statement, and everything, you have to have a connection object, right? So which means the first part or getting the connection or establishing the connection with the database is done. And then, so let's say we want to do a static SQL. I just want to do an insert. I use a statement. So how do I get a statement object? Connection.createState. We have the create statement method which returns us the statement object. And after creating the statement, you have a SQL as a string, and you can execute the SQL using the execute method. So let's say, folks, let me see if I have a row with this. I don't have any row with the ID. Maybe, it's made as unique cluster. I have to make sure that it's not present with the ID. So there is no record in the database that has the ID of 201 in that. So when I run this, it inserts, it executes this insert basically, right? So I executed this, and when I execute this query, I have inserted that. See, as you see, it's very simple. We get a statement object from the connection, and we execute the statement. We call the execute method by passing the specific SQL. The statement executes the SQL, whatever it's passed as an argument to the execute method. So we have inserted the specific actor in the database using statement. So folks, any doubts on this connection util or the insert which we are making through statement?
So in your slides, you say your closing statement. Are we closing connection or are we closing statement?
We should do both.
Okay.
I should keep a finite block here, and I should close both. If statement not is equal to null, first we have to close the statement, and then we close the connection.
Okay, so if we are closing connection each time, won't it affect the efficiency?
Let me tell you. Ideally, we won't be like opening the connection, closing the connection every time. When we are doing in a real-time scenario, we use a pool of connections that are reused. Like you have 10 connections, you reuse those connections. That pool number, you decide on how do you want to have it. Every time you don't create a new connection object. You don't close it and then create it. You open, like let's say you create a connection object and you reuse connections. We call that concept as a pooling, connection pooling.
Okay, so I mean it's in with the JDBC or
no, we write code to do the connection pooling.
Okay.
See here, I'm just getting this connection object there. But in an ideal scenario, we have a connection pool or a connection util class, wherein let's say we have a set of connections. Okay, let's say I have 10 connections, and I reuse the connection, those connections in my application instead of closing the connection again, opening it. It affects the network traffic, right? So we don't do that. We maintain a pool of connections, and those connection objects are reused, Manoj. Does it answer your question?
Yeah. So you're going to teach that one? I mean, I want to see how connection works. That's what.
I mean, I can provide you code. Maybe if I'm going to teach that way, it's going to take 6 months. But I'm sure I'll provide you the code. Everyone, not only you. I'll explain it.
Okay, that will work.
But the connection pooling is a concept. Any pooling like object pooling, we can use object pooling for a specific class, right? So what do we do instead of creating or nullifying the objects, making them eligible for garbage collection, or in this method creating connection objects and closing them? We create a set of them and we reuse it actually. That's what the concept of pooling.
Okay. So it's like a string pool in a memory. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, same thing is created and it's reused, right? If I want to reference the same literal, it doesn't create a new one. It reuses it, right? Okay. Same day, it will be only one. But here, connection objects, we have 10, and those 10 objects, let's say, are reused across the application.
Okay. So this connection pooling, is it used in Hibernate also, or with any connection?
Yes. So I'll tell you, when you're doing Hibernate, when you're using JDBC, right, we write code to do the connection pooling and all this. But when we are using Hibernate, in a configuration file, we specify the number of connections that we want, and it internally does the pooling for us. It internally provides the pooling for us. We don't need to break our heads and write the code to do the connection pooling. We just specify that in a Hibernate configuration file, and Hibernate does take care of the connection pooling. That's the beauty of Hibernate. Everyone is so silent.
Can you explain that connection that create statement? What it does?
Connection dot create statement. Hello. Okay. Connection dot create statement. It returns a statement object. We need a statement or a prepared statement or a callable statement object to execute the query, right? Now we are trying with a static SQL. We want to use a statement. So how do we get a statement object? We call the method create statement to get the statement object.
Thank you.
Any other doubts? Folks, the homework or the assignment for you for today is, I want you to have like the SQL setup. I'm sure most of you already have the SQL setup, and have this connection agent, try to connect to database, get the connection object, and once you're done with it, using the statement, do an insert, do an update. It's just same as executing any SQL, right? So try doing with an insert, update, try to do with different operations. That's what I want you to do as homework. Folks, if you're not doing it yourself, you're not practicing, it doesn't really help you much. The more you practice or the more you code, then you understand things better. Folks, any other doubts in statement? Do you want me to mail this code so that it might be useful for you?
Yeah.
Neha, should we download SQL or Oracle? Which one we need to download? SQL, right?
If you download any database, but Oracle is very heavyweight. See, folks, if it is a different database, right? What is the change that we are going to make?
So we are going to download MySQL. What do you suggest us to do? MySQL
is better in the local system because it doesn't need as many resources as Oracle needs.
Okay.
Right? And folks, if yours is an Oracle database, let's say you can install Oracle database also. So what are the things that are going to get changed? This URL gets changed. You need to have the URL that is specific to Oracle, which we have it in this PDF, right? You should have it this way. Yes. This is an example of an Oracle URL. JDBC Oracle then it's like, your username, password, and this is the host name, the port, and this is the database name. That URL gets changed. And I have the driver class that is specific to SQL, right? I'm using this driver, MySQL this driver. If yours is an Oracle driver, you have to use this class. So you have to go to internet and download the jar file which contains this driver. So it should be like I have this MySQL configure. There will be a different jar for Oracle. That's what the changes that we make. And after the installation, write code to establish the connection with the database and write some code, to do a statement like create a table, do simple select, or insert into it using a statement. Folks, any other doubts? And like the connection statement.
One doubt I have. You said this exception, class not found exception, and there is one more, class definition not found exception. I'm confused about that one.
Okay, see, when you don't have the class file, when you don't have the class in the build path, right, it gives you class not found exception. You have this class file, but it is not able to understand it. It is not in a format that it's understood by it. It gives you no class def found error. Class not found is the class is not found in the class path. You don't have it in the project build path, let's say. You get class not found exception. And you have that dot class file. You have that dot class file, but it's not able to understand it. But the definition is it's not able to understand what is there inside. It throws no class def found error. Manoj, you understood the difference?
Yeah.
Folks, any other doubts? I mean, not only in JDBC, anything in core Java or like JDBC architecture or drivers or. You don't have any doubts? Folks, what is polymorphism in Java?
Overloading and overriding.
You shouldn't be saying like this. You know, polymorphism, you should explain it. I mean, I'm sure you know that about those things, but I'm just telling you for the sake of your interviews actually, right? Actually, it doesn't really matter how much you know. It's how what you explain to them matters for. So when they try to ask you, try to explain slowly and elaboratively until they stop you. If they're trying to ask one more question, just make a pass. If not, if they ask you polymorphism, you know about polymorphism. Take 2 minutes and eat up the interviewer's time actually, right? And when you try to explain whatever you know, right? In the interview, folks, trust me, no one answers 100 out of 100 questions. But you have to justify your resume, and you should, whatever you say, you know it. You should be very crystal clear in those concepts. Yes, this is this, right? This is how overloading works, and this is how overriding works. I'm just giving an example. So if you have that confidence in your voice when you're answering it, I mean, the interviewer comes to a conclusion that you will be able to work. Even though you're not an expert on it, on the specific requirement that they have, they come to a conclusion that you will be able to work on it. Folks, we have so many frameworks in Java, right? Not everyone works on all the frameworks. But when we work on one framework, let's say we have Hibernate and IVATIS as the ORM framework, right? When there is a requirement for IVATIS, they recruit people who have experience in Hibernate, not on IVATIS. I mean, people who have experience on Hibernate and not on IVATIS also, they recruit them. Because both are ORM frameworks. If we have ever worked on Hibernate, we have all the ability to work on IVATIS with little effort. So when they ask you, you can say, I haven't worked on this, but I have knowledge on this, I can should work on it. That's the way. But for saying that and to convince it, you should be able to explain, the bottom concepts or whatever you're trying to define in your resume very properly. So when someone are asking like a overloading or overriding, don't think that it's a very basic question. It's a basic question. Though, how you answer that question is more important. Everyone knows what is overloading and what is overriding. But how you explain it in a more elaborative way, how the compiler recognizes it, right? The compiler only makes a difference of a name and the argument list. It doesn't consider the return type when it differentiates different methods. If you say that, when you are explaining overloading or overriding, it really adds, an impression to the interviewer. I mean, this is for people who are like preparing for the interviews, who already have jobs and you're just learning it. That's a different thing. But even then, it makes more sense to always have those skills. Maybe in future, if you're going to any interview, any of you, it's more useful for you. Folks, any doubts? I'm sorry, I think I'm giving more gyan about the interviews at the end, right? Folks, say yes, no, something. Okay, folks, any doubts? Any of you have any doubts? Folks, tomorrow we'll be discussing about the prepared statement and callable statement. Like, what else do you have? Different kind of result sets. Result set types we have discussed this today, right? We have some statements, and we'll be doing the prepared statement examples like from the code perspective, and then we discuss different types of result sets, and different methods that we have in the result set, and how we do commit and rollback. Folks, we can call it a day if you don't have any doubts. I mean, if you have any doubts, I'll be glad to answer anything. Any doubts?
Yeah, can you send this code maybe on Friday tonight?
Yes, folks, I'll email you this code. Okay, folks, if you don't have any doubts, thank you so much for attending the class, and good night, everyone. Please practice. Okay?
So Neha, last week we had only 4 days of class, right? Friday was no class, right?
No, we didn't have class on Friday.
Okay. And Neha, can you stay back longer? I just wanted to talk with you.
Yes, Neil, you can ask me.
Yeah, I actually missed Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So what are the topics you covered? I know I have the files, the recorded files.
No. In the last class, on Thursday, we were discussing the SQL basics and the JDBC architecture. And I think before that, we were discussing collections.
Collections, okay. Okay, all right, I'll go.
I'm sorry, before that, IO strings. Input-output strings.
IO string, okay, IO string.
Yeah. And before that, it is collections.
Okay, collections, input-output string, and then JDBC. Okay.
Yes,
So
I think the end of collection.
End of collection. So today we didn't start with JDBC. We started on Thursday itself.
Yes, I started on JDBC, but I have reiterated the JDBC architecture again today.
Okay.
On Thursday, I explained the basics of SQL, and we have discussed the JDBC architecture. So today I reiterated the JDBC architecture. I mean, I have discussed it one more time, and then I have moved forward. Excuse me, Neil.
The MySQL, right, in my machine for this JDBC practice.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website h2kinfosys.com. On our website h2kinfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.